I've decided to assemble a couple of rifles for use in this year's upcoming high power matches. Because these are probably going to be loaner rifles to first time shooters, maybe teenagers. In order to reduce the recoil and the ease of operation, I've decided to base them on a knockoff of an AR-15. So to build an AR-15 rifle, you need to start with the lower receiver. This one is manufactured by Anderson Manufacturing Company. It's their AR-M16 model. As I lay it here, I see this white area. Actually, that's an unanodized hole. Doesn't go clear through. It's not on the other side. And that's where they drove the electrical connection pin into these, probably a forging, and then submerged it in acid. Passed current through this pressed-in connection and suspended it in acid. Current flows and it anodizes it. Now, incidentally, it doesn't anodize it black. It anodizes clear or slightly opaque. The black or whatever coloring you want is dye that's added after the anodizing. Okay, we've got some holes, cutouts, hollow spaces. That need to be filled or populated. In order to do that, you will need a bunch of lower parts, this being the lower. The easiest way to do that is to buy a parts kit. They're about $45. This one contains a trigger, which I don't intend to use. So you could buy a parts kit, less the trigger, for about $35. And this contains all the pieces and parts needed to fill all the holes except for this one. You see, it's threaded. The lower build kit is fairly easy to install. There's historically two areas that need to be thought about, or you need to be prepared for them. This being a lower receiver, it's fastened to an upper receiver. The upper receiver fits here and accepts the barrel and bolt carrier and stuff. That's fastened to this with two removable pins that are inserted into this whole set of holes here and this set of holes back here. They're called takedown pins, or specifically this one is called a pivot pin. These takedown pins or pivot pins are very much the same. The front pin or pivot pin is longer, has a fatter head. The rear one has a rounded head, shorter. The front one is flattened on one side. The head is flattened. They both have a cut running lengthwise and two little divots at each end. See a little divot right there and right there, connected by this trough. The front pin, pivot pin, takedown pin, it's a little easier to see, and it has a hole that goes completely through, a very small hole, goes completely through. There you can see the map below it. These pins are secured in the rifle by a detent pin and a detent spring. The long pin, the takedown pin, and being flattened, it fits in this cutout here. So to fasten the upper and the lower together, the upper lug is lowered into here, and this pin is pushed through, locking the upper and lower together. And the same is true of the rear pin, takedown pin. There's a lug on the upper that fits down in this cavity. The upper takedown pin is secured by a spring that's in this area, and that's this spring. It's just inserted in there and falls down. And the detent pin, which is inserted in. So that's all the farther it really goes in. Needs to be pushed down, needs to be compressed in order to insert the pin. Because I'm a dealer, and sometimes people come in to buy replacement parts for their lower receiver, or barrels or anything, I maintain a healthy inventory of these springs and pins. Lots and lots of springs and pins. Because invariably, the first, second, third, or 15th time you attempt to install this front pin, things go flying. In order to prevent that, people have developed tools. The tool I used mostly, and I have used this since about 87, is merely a 1/4-inch steel rod. It's been knurled on one side, one end, hollowed out on the other, and it fits like that. So if I line the hole up, get it into a position where I can drop in through the insertion tool, I can insert the spring and the pin, the detent pin. There we go. You see, there's the end of the pin. Then, if I take a small enough punch, I can push the pin down in there. See what I mean? I'm pushing the pin down in, and then I rotate it. And now the pin and spring are captive, held below the insertion tool. Then I can take this and just push it in. Pushing out the insertion tool. So this is a tool I've used for years and years and years. I've done hundreds of these. A lot of times lately, since I have neuropathy in my fingers, I'll do this inside of a large plastic bag so I can recover these pieces if I slip. Wheeler, a brand name, makes this tool with a insertion It's a little pin about just long enough to do the job. You should pay less than $10 for this tool. Chinese made a knockoff of it, of the Wheeler tool, and of my tool. I don't know what it is, but unfortunately it doesn't work very well because this is not a 1/4-inch pin. This pin is too long, although it's not really a problem. It's just a shame they didn't do it right. On Wish, this is less than $3. Don't buy it. It's not worth it. Recently, I purchased this tool. It's 3 pieces. I've not used it yet. This is the tool. I bought it on Amazon. And you see, this tool cost me, with Prime, cost $10 free shipping. Let's see how this tool is designed to work. I think the tool goes like that. This goes in here. Or does it? And we've got the same thing, although already aligned. It's a hole going through a pin, which allows me to install the spring in and detent pin. Because the spring fits in the whole way, I'm going to take the tool out. People hardly ever lubricate this spring assembly. Little tiny hole there. So I put waterproof grease on it. And I'm just going to drop it in the hole without using the little tool. If you don't grease it, you don't have to do that. You could insert this tool, drop the spring and the pin in. Spring's already in. I'm going to drop the pin in. Use this plunger tool to push down on the pin. I hope. There we go. Then I lift up on this flap. And once again, the pin, and of course the spring, are trapped. You can see the little gold pin there. Now with this thing up in the air, this flag, the instructions tell us to just slide this in. Okay. And then just slide the whole assembly through. Remove the push pin. Now you've got to rotate this pin so the slot, the groove, engages the divot pin. You'll hear it fall. There we go. Now it should be a little hard to move. Well, it's not. Well, it is. See there? And it locks in on that side. So I need to, if I want to take that out, I have to remove it with a little punchy tool. This tool at $9, believe me, if you're only going to build one of these, and that never happens, I believe this tool will make one big difference in your life. The flying detent pin, some lower parts kit manufacturer are actually supplying 3 of these pins instead of 2, just because they don't want to put up with a phone call somebody saying, well, you only gave me one. Well, what really happened is the caller has lost one of his two. This is a very, very good tool.